Alright, everybody in the Overwatch universe that has a soul has innate genetic powers. Now that I've got you hooked, let's get into the video. What exactly do I mean by this claim that everybody with a soul has innate powers? Well, this would explain every single outlier, every single person who doesn't quite meet the expectation or the requirement of, oh, their powers are at least loosely based in science. The man who kicked off this investigation is none other than Gabriel Reyes, or Reaper. Now, what exactly about Reaper? Well, if you look at Moira's little hero introduction trailer video thing, you can see that when she experiments on Reaper, she's like looking at him a little bit confused. He's confused as fuck, which tells me one thing at least, and that is this was unexpected. Moira meant to do something to his genetics, which is what happened to make him like a wraith, quote unquote, but she did not know what was going to happen, which makes me think this is not a constant thing she can reproduce to make somebody a wraith. She only unlocks their genetic potential, as she puts it, or human potential, human evolution, something like that. And so that's why I think almost everybody has innate abilities, which explains every other outlier in the entire lore. Moving on, we are going to go to an extreme, Zenyatta and Ramattra. Now, I'll tell you about Ramattra. Let's put a pin in that. So, Zenyatta. Why is Zenyatta working here? Because, well, we all think, at least now, it is magic because we do not understand the science, but I think it is based in spirituality and the fact that he has taken the religion of the Iris and ingrained it into his very being as a person, because I think Omnics have souls. So, what I think is happening here is that the Iris is a real thing. It is a thing you can go see. But through the mental fortitude, the training, the just tranquility, accepting your demons, letting them go, but still like actually acknowledging them, lets you control parts of the Iris. This is why Zenyatta can heal. He controls tranquility and discord, the discord being harm. But in Zenyatta's case, he only inflicts more pain without inflicting pain directly. He makes them take more pain. And then he relieves pain, and he can levitate via his tranquil state being unchained from the earth, which would tie in to the fact that in many belief systems, there is an idea with the more spiritual ones that you can unchain yourself from the earth, specifically Buddhism, which is, I'm pretty sure what Hinduism and Buddhism is what the Iris religion is kind of based off of in the real world. So it would make sense that the same, I am no longer shackled by the realm of the earth because I do not have any direct connections. That is why Zenyatta has his powers, which we call magic. Now, since we're talking about the Iris, let's talk about Ramattra. Ramattra went through these same things, except he could not find peace within himself, which is why his deep connection with the Iris is similar to Zenyatta's, but Zenyatta has both tranquility and discord, but I think Ramattra only has discord because when he uses annihilation, those tethers, magical-looking tethers, go off of him, slow down people, take away their life force, which I think is a different application of the discord of the Iris. And the reason he cannot levitate is because he is still shackled to Earth by his hatred for humanity and wanting to quote-unquote liberate Omnics, so he is tied down to the Earth. Now onto ones that are more loosely based on the science, but there's more science behind them, unlike Zenyatta and Ramattra in this case. Sigma. So, Sigma caught into a black hole somewhat, but then was able to somehow not get pulled in and survived. Normally, well, one, you wouldn't make it out, but two, let's say you do, he would just be fucked mentally, and that's it. But no, instead he got gravitational powers. Why? My theory, going with the Moira thing, of every single person with a soul has the genetic ability to gain, their innate power. I think Sigma's was always innate gravitational manipulation. He just needed the right catalyst to unlock it. And I believe getting sucked into the black hole and surviving was his catalyst. The only problem is, with it being his catalyst, his mind was fractured, and thus he is rendered more tame than he would be if he was fully competent. Same thing with Tracer and her time manipulation abilities. She was on the slipstream, which was supposed to be a super fast jet, but it actually hops through time. It malfunctioned. She was in it. Instead of being lost in time and space, probably just exploding or some shit. No, instead, I think it was because she had the innate ability within herself to control the power, but she needed, the harness that Winston made her, I forgot what it was called, to Chrono Accelerator, to control it and contain it, which is why it's kind of like her way of life, because she can't really safely train it to be in control, which is why Sigma doesn't need special things to keep him in check, but Tracer does, aside from, Sigma's mental blocks and manipulation, but that's another thing. The catalyst thing, again, happens with Hazard. You're telling me he's never done this before, right? Let's say Hazard has never injected these strange things into him. You're telling me when he injects this isotope into him, he gains powers? I don't believe you. I think he had the innate ability to control this exact isotope, and it just so happened that this isotope went into his body in some way, thus manifesting in the powers. Now, I do want to mention, coincidences happen to make story happen. So that is why, how come they found the exact isotope and not a different isotope? Well, it was luck. It was all fate. It was all coincidence. That is how stories are made. So I don't want to see any comments like that, because that defeats the purpose of everything. But we are only 7 minutes in, and I still have more people to talk about. So let's get it. Let's jump back to spirituality from the more science-driven thing into Kiriko and the Shamadas. Now, Kiriko, you know what? Magic isn't real. Fuck you guys. Magic isn't real. I've been on the train. Magic is real. Magic isn't going to be real. Let my theory be real. So my theory, again, goes innate ability, right? She has a genetic, generational thing where it skips every other generation, or it picks somebody who is worthy from each generation, if anybody. Thus, Kiriko's grandmother could see, control, could use all these powers and abilities she can with the Kitsune, and her mom can't because she wasn't the chosen one. She wasn't chosen to wield the Kitsune's power, but Kiriko was. So it is a spiritually driven thing like the iris, but unlike the iris, it also has a genetic component, whereas Zenyatta and Ramatra, they have only the spiritual, but she has spiritual and genetic with her grandmother. Then, onto the Shamadas. Now, again, they are clearly magic if my theory isn't correct. But if my theory is correct, then that means I believe that the will is your dragon. So the reason Genji has one dragon, Hanzo has two, is because Genji has accepted himself as one person. He probably had a fractured mind at some point after Hanzo beat him up, but we've only ever seen him with one dragon, so we cannot assume that he ever had two until we know for sure. But I think Hanzo has two because he had loyalty to his clan, and then loyalty, and then himself, like his own code versus his clan's code, which split his one dragon, I think, into two. And the reason they never say anything about this is because it has been like this for so long, they probably can't even remember vividly having, 1 to 2 dragons or 2 to 1 dragon. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I think it's all spiritual, but with the genetic component of being a human. Now, this does not discredit any single ability in the game, because any ability that seems a little too far-fetched, because there's not decent, general blue-space science on it, but this theory brings it all together. Moira unlocked her own potential of decay. She can artificially decay. Sure, she's decaying herself, but she can decay things with her will alone. Reaper, she gave him the ability to disperse his body into tiny little particles and then reform himself into like a smoke-like thing. She's probably done it with so many other people. You know how many characters could come out of this if this theory is correct? You know how many people we've seen in lore could suddenly gain powers and thus be an actual character? Like Emily, for instance, Tracer's girlfriend / maybe wife soon, who knows? I hope so, that'd be fun. But no, Emily, something could happen with Emily and then she gets superpowers, and then Emily's in the fucking game. You never know, and that's why I want this theory to be so correct. Because like Unrun and Wu Young, for instance, they are completely technology based. Now, there's martial arts, obviously, but they are technology. Freya, technology. Reaper, science, a little bit of mysticalness going on. Except no, it's his innate gift. And yes, that means everybody here is special. But let's be honest, if you think about it, every superpowered individual in media is a special chosen one. That is why the Justice League is only comprised of what, 5 to 10 members? Because there are only so many people that are just insanely powerful and super like they are. In conclusion, I know the devs will say, this theory is not right, this theory is not correct, if they even see it at all, but I hope they do. And I hope they think about it. They really sit there and be like, well, the evidence is there loosely, and I want to give you one final piece of evidence to really solidify this. It is not the best case. I think Hazard, Sigma, Tracer, Reaper, those are the best ones. And, Zenyatta, Ramattra a little bit, Kiriko, them, right? All of them. I listed all of them. But there's one character I have yet to mention, and that is Alari. Why is it that in Peru, only the Inti warrior tribe really did this whole carving into their own flesh and pouring sunlight, quote unquote, give or take, into themselves, thus letting them harness the power of the sun as it integrates into their own body? Well, it would make a lot of frickin' sense if that's because only their tribe has the genetic component to do so. It is the most natural thing here, because you have the soul. They pray to the sun, I think, right? They pray to the sun. They worship the sun. It is their culture. It is their way of life. They praise life, etc. So they have the spirituality, they have the soul in it, and then they have the genetic component of doing this from probably just spirituality, and then over time, enough of them did it, and enough of them, had kids afterward, that they made it a genetic component. They evolved to make this an innate ability, and all you need to do, carve the skin, pour sun into it, sun energy, and look at that, you have a new Inti warrior. Which is why I think if any of these characters have children post getting powers, they will potentially have superpowered children. And that is not out of the realm of possibility when you mess with genetics in a fiction world. I am Pop Rocks, and I hope you like this theory, because if you can't tell, I feel very passionate about this theory. I thought of literally today because it just makes everything click. You add that one factor, the genetic or the soul, and it just everything comes together perfectly. There's no longer an outlier in Kiriko and the Shamadas being magic, and Zenyatta being magic, because magic is science we don't understand. But if this is a development that happens within the Overwatch lore, then everything will click into place. Everything will make sense. I will be right. You all will call me crazy, but I don't care. I'm Pop Rocks, signing out. Bye-bye.